Hi, this is Alex with Headwaters seat covers. Today we're going to be installing some seat covers on a 2004 to 2009 Ford Ranger. It's going to be a 60/40 with opening center console. The passenger side will install the same way as the driver, just minus this center seat here. So right here we have this mark on the inside corner. It says DB, which stands for driver bottom. All the pieces will be labeled on the inside corner to signify what piece that is. So we'll just start here by kind of loosely getting that corner on. With this one, you're going to want to feed this seat belt through. It'll kind of hold that in there. Take this middle seat belt, kind of get it out of your way, and then just kind of work it in there just as a loose. And then you're going to want to take these straps, just feed them under here for now, over the slider bar. And then with these up here, this is just going to feed in right in between this seam, and it's going to stick out on the back side. And then along with this, it'll do the same thing. It'll kind of go right where this seat belt is. Just kind of stick it into there. This one, it can be easier just by moving that, giving yourself a little bit of slack. And then same thing with this, it's going to follow this. You're just going to kind of try to get it in between the seats outside of this. So again, when you're loosely putting these on here, you want to line up these seams with the original factory seams. Our seat covers are designed to follow those seams. So you'll see it's a good place to figure out if you're crooked or whatnot. And then with this guy, you're just going to want to shove it into here. Sometimes it helps to position the seat where you can get a little bit more room underneath there. So right here we have this driver's side skirt, and you're just going to want to make sure that you're tucking it underneath this plastic right here, because that's just the way it was designed. We have this tucking tool right here, but if you don't have one of these, just a butter knife or something dull, just make sure you don't puncture the seat covers. It'll really help you do it. And then this piece right here, it's always good to fold it in half like this. Makes it a lot stiffer, and you can move it where you want to. A good thing to do as well is kind of pull back this seat, and it'll just feed in there like that. And then I'll reach under here and you can see it, and then it'll just kind of follow where you're pulling it. And then I'm just going to go around and tuck in this underneath the plastic. You just want to make sure none of the factory seat is showing, and just make sure that this is tucked in there. We'll go back through and finalize that, but for now we're going to go to the back and start pulling everything kind of tight and getting rid of all these ugly corners. So with this guy, this is the one that came down through here. You'll see it snug up and kind of pull out that slack and help guide it underneath that plastic. And then with this guy, there's a piece for this lumbar support, or for this adjuster. You're just going to want to make sure you're out of the way of that. And then you're going to tuck it up in between this plastic and kind of just pull it over and tack it there for now. We'll adjust it and tighten it once everything else is going to get moved around. So here we have our piece sticking through the seat. It does like to stick to this bottom Velcro, so that will kind of be a pain for you, but what you're just going to want to do is get it unstuck, and then you're just going to want to yank it back and kind of tack it up as you go so it doesn't just gonna want to kind of pull it down for now, and then you should have a piece sticking through right here. You're gonna want to go underneath this seat belt. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to give it a good yank and get a little bit more slack for yourself. Kind of like that, and it'll attach to this fuzzy Velcro right here. Just make sure you're underneath the seat belt so that does not interfere. We'll kind of tack it up there for now, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so with these front straps, it, like again with that side one, does help to fold them in half so they're stiff. You can just kind of guide them where you want them. Make sure you go above this slider bar right here so it's not going to interfere. So there's no wires we actually have to go over. But again, be careful because this is going to be all greasy and you don't want to smudge up your seat covers. And there is some sharp stuff you can cut yourself on, so again, be careful when you're down in here. So with this one, again, you're going to want to do the same. Fold it in half so they're nice and stiff because you don't really have much room to work with underneath here. And they're just going to feed back. You don't have to worry about any wires underneath. And then do again with this one. Just fold it in half. Makes it nice and stiff and actually goes where you want it to go. You're just going to feed those back, and then you should be able to pull those from the back right here. These are going to be the ones that we just fed through. This one is poking out, and the other one you're just going to have to reach up in there and just kind of feel around for it. Sometimes it helps to go in from this driver's side on these Rangers and grab it. And then over here, you're going to want to take this out of this elastic. We have this elastic sewn onto the seat cover right here. It's going to be kind of hard to see. So this will actually get covered. And then with this guy, we can just kind of tighten it up. Sometimes it helps to do your side ones first on here because this has more area to grab onto where that's a specific spot. And then again with this, just going to want to make sure it's tight when you're pulling it down. We're going to have our main straps from the bottom coming through. I just like to tack them on there for a second just so you don't have to fight them. And then again, you're going to have to fight this guy and pull it up just a bit so you can get yourself an area to put these black straps on. Don't pull too hard on these because you can rip them off, but they're pretty good so you can kind of tug on them. And they just kind of tuck up underneath this flap. And then you're just going to want to wrench on this guy. Pull him down and just kind of keep working it. And on the other side of the seat, you can run your hand along the bottom of the seat. It helps kind of massage it and gets any ripples out. on the top of the seat, and then while this is up, you'll get that slack, and you can kind of push it back, and then you'll feel it. You can just kind of tighten this guy down. Okay. So with this seat belt that we undid with the elastic, you're just gonna want to kind of pull it up through here, kind of get this out of your way, and you can just kind of feel there's that elastic piece, and then we'll just pull it underneath there. Now just keep that up here and kind of just close that up, and then you're just going to want to double check everything on here. So if you have like ripples right in here, or a corner that's got too much slack in it, it helps to just kind of run your hand back. This is what I was talking about when I was pulling that flap back. You just run your hand back, and you can kind of see like you're getting the majority of it back here, and then you can just take that back flap, undo it, and then pull it, and all of this will tighten up right in here. So again, we're gonna see that this is the driver tops. DT obviously stands for that. Another way to tell is we're gonna have our Headwaters seat cover logo, and this is gonna be the back of the seat on the driver's side. So easiest way I like to start doing this is just kind of pull it over your headrest, get it kind of started. It is going to help to kind of do a sawing motion. And again, don't get too carried away with this sawing motion, because you're going to want to make sure this seam follows this seam right here. So if you get too crazy, your seat cover is going to be pretty crooked, but you can adjust it when it's pulled on. And sometimes it buckles up like right here, so you just kind of want to grab it from both sides and kind of pull it down, and then it will kind of work with you a little bit better. This inside, sharing the console side is always a little bit tougher, but once it gets towards the very bottom, it will almost get easier. The hardest part is just getting it over the bolsters. And again, with those bolsters, this little slack up in here will kind of, once you start using them and sitting them more, it will kind of form to those bolsters. And then what you can do with that extra slack is the same thing with that bottom. You just run your hand along here, and then you'll take this flap right here, and you'll shove it into that same crack that you put the bottom through. So just kind of go something kind of like that. But again, you're going to want to make sure you followed the seams. Like on this guy, I'm far off, so I'll actually just try to pull that my way. if you can kind of grab on to a little bit of the side of the seat, it really helps to pull these corners in. Sometimes it can be hard, so you just kind of gotta massage it a little bit. So that's looking a lot better, and you want to almost split the difference between this seam and this seam, because that initially they won't line exactly up where you want it, but when you start sitting in this, it'll pull this seam in once that bolster kind of, or the center of the seat kind of loses its little air pocket almost, and then you can just again run your hand down the seat, and then it will all get kind of sucked up and pulled tight by this flap that you'll shove underneath. So now we're going to shove this flap underneath because I had to readjust it, and those just kind of get worked into there. And again, sometimes it helps to maybe tip the seat back to get you a little bit more room, or tip the seat forward, just to kind of depending on, there's a sweet spot somewhere. Sometimes if you're really struggling with this is maybe somewhere where you want to use like a tucker tool or something like that. Just be very careful, because this is probably where you would poke a hole in your seat or something like that, but it just kind of helps guide them in there. So now we'll jump to the back and I'll show you how to fasten those guys. So again, with this, don't be afraid to kind of move the seat around to give yourself a little bit more room. And we should be able to see our pieces poking through. So there's one, there's two, there's three. And when you initially pull those through, you'll really feel the seat cover kind of tighten up. And so with this, you can still see fuzz showing from the factory seat. So that means we're not far enough down on the back side. And again, with this, there's fuzz on the inside of this piece, and then these guys will just go into attach right there. Usually I like to start from one side, but maybe if you're struggling to keep it on, just tack it in the middle and then work your way around. So just make sure they're nice and tight. Pull that guy down, and again, you can always adjust it, but it does help to kind of get it into place. So again, this goes for the driver top and the driver bottom and basically all the pieces. If you kind of get like a lot of slack in here, you just kind of run your hands down, kind of bulk up down here, and then you almost want to shove it back, and then you can go into the back and pull those flaps and just kind of tighten them up, and it'll just snug all of this up to just be almost skin tight for the factory seats, and it'll look a lot better. So right here we got the console piece. It says C, and this is actually going to be this underside. It will cover this. So I usually start off by kind of just getting the seat belt out of your way so you're not fighting that guy. And then sometimes it does help to angle the seats all the way back. And you're just going to want to kind of start with one of either the front or the back. It's kind of up to you, and you just kind of pull this on there. And then it kind of does help to angle this forward a bit, and you can kind of reach your hand under there, because this cutout right here will actually go around this piece, because this piece will cover like the backside back here of the center console. and it almost helps to feed it through where that cutout is. And then back here you almost can just pull it up like it's pulling up your pants or something, and it'll almost hold it on there for you so you don't have to fight it. And then you're just going to want to make sure all your Velcros are not trapped underneath. With these guys, like this one and this one, the ones with no adhesive Velcro on it will attach to each other. So if I just kind of loosely show you, it'll go kind of something like this. With these adhesive pieces, most of the time you're going to be able just to use isopropyl alcohol, something just kind of like this you can buy at a generic store. And you're just going to want to scrub the place where this piece will be attaching, because this is actually its own Velcro piece. And then this piece will kind of just loop around and attach into there. But if you've used some type of like plastic cleaner or something like that, or the isopropyl alcohol isn't letting this stick, another option is to use a piece of cloth with soapy water and then use the isopropyl alcohol, and then you should be good after that. So with these guys, you'll just take a little bit of this isopropyl alcohol, and you're just going to want to scrub really hard. So like you can just take this piece, make sure it's tight, and you know you're going to go right about there. And you're just going to want to scrub it really hard. Make sure you're getting all that. And you don't want to let it dry or move to the next piece. You want to scrub that off. And then you can even see it on this one. All that stuff came off. And you're just going to want to pull this. Make sure you're kind of pulling these tight, because you can move the strap on that Velcro, but just kind of makes it a little bit easier. And then you're just going to kind of repeat that process all the way around. You can see like right here, this one's got 2, so this is your extras. So just maybe put that in the center console in case one of these pulls up or something like that. So with these guys back here, you're just going to want to kind of pull this up. And don't pull on these, because these ones are pretty small. So you don't want to rip them off and not be able to connect it. So just kind of grab this flap and pull them. And then you'll see if we open this up, there's just kind of like a little, you can see you almost poking through. And you're just going to want to kind of grab that guy. And again, you don't want to really wrench on these, but this will get pulled up all the way to here. This front guy will get kind of pulled all the way around, tack it on there, and then just repeat the same process for the other side. And then once you kind of have these all tacked on there, you're going to want to make sure that, like on this side, on my side right here, I'm showing a little bit of the center console. So sometimes you can just kind of pull the fabric over, like that time it works. Sometimes you might have to take off some of these and readjust them. But again, you're just going to kind of want to make sure that this is nice and tight, the seams are following. So with this, this skinny guy right here, we're gonna see that it's the lid. That's what the L stands for on this guy. And just gonna want to pull these apart just like that, kind of make sure they're all out of your way. So with the L in the bottom right here, it's gonna be facing the rear seats, and then you're just gonna want to pull this around. Sometimes this can be kind of tricky because it wants to fight you. If you have a second person, they could kind of maybe hold this down. Otherwise, sometimes what I'll do is hop into the back seat here, kind of get these front corners in place, and then maybe put my leg right there, and then pull these guys up and around. So once you get the top piece kind of fitted on there, you're just going to want to kind of come under here and tack these guys, get them on there, and you can wrench these down because that's what's going to hold these corners from popping off. And then what you're going to want to do with these is just pull these tight enough until there's not really any seat cover showing. So after you kind of get all of these tightened up, in some of these places, like sometimes right here, it just helps to, there's the salvage from where they sew the piece together. It kind of helps to pull it to the outside to give this top piece a nice like flat look. And then you're just going to want to make sure all your corners are around the corner, and then you should be pretty good.